Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo on this beautiful Wednesday. Crazy night last night. Lots of rain, lots of wind, but not too bad out there today. Kind of mild temperatures. And it's going to be a beautiful Monday night in Tampa. We're not sure if it's going to rain. Eagles have gotten so many games with bad weather this year. We'll see if they get another one, but it won't be cold. We know that for sure. But welcome into the Philly Sports Power Hour. We are streaming live on the JAKIB Sports Network on YouTube. We are live on TikTok as well. We're going to be joined today, like we are every Wednesday, by Kayla Santiago. Does a great job covering the Sixers, so we're going to talk to her a little bit about the 76ers. She also knows her football as well, so we'll get her opinion on this Philadelphia Eagles football team, what the hell is going on with the Eagles, and what we can expect on Monday night playoff game. Still can't believe it. I said it yesterday, and it still just shocks me every single time I think about it, that we've waited since February of last year. We're going on almost a year, and we have been waiting for this moment for the NFL playoffs to start, and this is the feeling around this city. And I'm not saying the fans are wrong. I think we're right for feeling this way. You look at the last 6 games, and this Philadelphia Eagles team has given us zero reason to have hope in this team. But it's just amazing to me when that clock struck zero in Super Bowl 57, when James Bradbury got that holding call and we all knew the game was over. After getting in the fetal position, crying myself to sleep, the one thing that got me up the next morning was, okay, we're going to get back. It's going to be a long offseason, but we're going to build this team back. We're going to have all of our guys coming back. And we got a real shot to get back to the Super Bowl next season. And now we're finally here. It's finally the playoffs. And I don't have any damn hope for this team. But we'll talk about that. And like I said, we'll talk to Kayla about the 76ers as well. But let me get a little roll call from the Power Hour crew joining us here today. Billy Ray, good morning. Wine Niners Wine in the house. Appreciate you. Just saw you tweet me too, Wine Niners Wine. I'm glad you enjoyed the podcast with Johnny Marks. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, you can check it out on any podcast platform if you want to listen to the audio. Legal Hands to the Face is the name of the show. You could watch it right here on the JAKIB Sports Network, YouTube as well. But it was good to hear from Johnny Marks. We all got used to hearing Johnny every single day. You haven't heard him in a while. As you guys know, he left WIP, so it was cool to have him on the show, and we'll be having him back for sure. But good morning to you. Good morning, WCBJJ, Decoy Gaming, Manny Martinez, MC, Bobby Murphy, Spa City Chop. What is going on? And I see some people here on TikTok as well. Good morning to you. But before we get into the Eagles and the Sixers with Kayla Santiago, we got to talk about the Flyers again. Because, man, this is just making news. I was going to say nationally, but it's in Canada as well. What happened with the trade of Cutter Gauthier? And we talked about it yesterday. But now everybody's responding to it. Most people, obviously former Flyers, you had Zach Ronaldo say, hey, look, if you don't bleed orange, we don't want you in Philadelphia. You even had Barnaby. Who remembers that pest? Barnaby. We all couldn't stand him when he was on the other teams. Remember some playoff series against Buffalo with Barnaby, real agitator. He came out and said, why would you not want to play in Philadelphia? That even though he got booed when he was here, he loved playing in this town. And I talked about it yesterday that Cutter Gauthier messed up big time because he would have been an absolute hero in this city if he was the player that we all thought he was. But you had other people like Sean Avery. And if you guys are hockey fans, I guarantee you dislike Sean Avery. I'm not even sure fans of teams in cities he played for like Sean Avery. He was an absolute pest, but he was an unlikable one. You know, that those guys that when they're not on your team, you hate them. But when they get to your team, you love them. I feel like Sean Avery didn't matter. If he was on your team or not, you just didn't like the guy. So he comes out yesterday on his podcast, and take a quick Google, you'll hear it. But basically talked about why would Cutter Gauthier want to play in Philadelphia. He took a shot at John Tortorella. He took a shot at Danny Briere. And he took a shot at us Philadelphia fans. And of course, resorts back to the lame Santa Claus story, but he goes a step further and doesn't even say they threw snowballs at Santa. Says we threw quarters at Santa. Come on, Sean Avery. But of course, that's being retweeted a million times. We're here talking about it. Sean Avery got exactly what he wanted. His name back in the headlines. Called us greasy fans, I think. Savages. And the best part of it all, Cutter Gauthier liked it. Cutter Gauthier liked what Sean Avery was saying. And I don't mean liked it like in his own home. I mean physically liked it on Twitter. So I can't wait, and I know you guys can't wait, till Cutter Gauthier is in this league and he has to come to Philadelphia and play the Flyers in front of this Philadelphia fan base. Because if we thought we booed Sidney Crosby loudly, just wait until Cutter Gauthier steps foot at the Wells Fargo Center. I may have to get tickets to that game because I want to boo the hell out of this kid. Especially with the 180 he pulled on us. Looking the Flyers organization in the eyes and saying, I was born to be a Flyer. I was built to be a Flyer. And now not only do you refuse to talk to them, you refuse to play for them. You're going to like Sean Avery talking about this organization and its fans in that way? You're going to like that? Cutter Gauthier, man, you better be ready when you come to Philly because it's going to be on. But that's my Philadelphia Flyers rant today. I'm hoping that this could maybe motivate the Flyers. They haven't been playing well over the last few games. We talked about it yesterday. They got to get back in the winning column. But we will see. But some other news, guys. Let's jump over to the NFL. More axes are falling on head coaches. One of the ones that I did not think was going to happen that surprised me was Mike Vrabel being let go by the Tennessee Titans. And I think he will be a hot name for sure. I see people already talking about the Philadelphia Eagles should fire Nick Sirianni and hire Mike Vrabel. Not going to happen. And I see you flexing and stepping, checking in. Good morning. Denise Larada, good morning. But it's not going to happen. Number one, even though I think, and we talked about it, that if the Eagles lay an egg in Tampa, that I think the Philadelphia Eagles should consider moving on from Nick Sirianni, which is a complete 180 for me, guys. Before the Giants game, I said it would be a severe overreaction. But after what I saw on Sunday against the Giants, if they do that again in the playoffs, I think you really have to consider moving on. But even if they were to do that, Mike Vrabel is a defensive coach. And I don't see Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman bringing in a defensive head coach. Just look at their last few hires. Nick Sirianni, offensive coach. Doug Peterson, offensive coach. Chip Kelly, offensive coach. Andy Reid, offensive coach. When they have a $200 million quarterback, I think the Philadelphia Eagles organization wants an offensive coach. Now, I know right before they hired Chip, they were about to hire Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator from Seattle at the time. You guys remember that? Gus Bradley, I think, was at Jeffrey Lurie's house ready to accept the job. They get the call from Chip Kelly saying he's changed his mind. He does want to come to the NFL. Crazy stuff. But I think you will see whenever the Eagles make a change at head coach. I don't think it'll be this offseason, even though I think it would be warranted if they lay an egg in Tampa. I don't see Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman bringing on a coach that's not an offensive coach. And I do think when they hired Nick Sirianni, not only did they hire him because he was an offensive coach, I think they thought he was going to be the play caller on this football team. And if you guys remember back to his first year, he was the play caller for the first few games. And it wasn't good. I remember coming on my other podcast, Legal Hands to the Face, after a few games and saying Nick Sirianni is the worst play caller I have ever seen. That was a few games in to his tenure as the Eagles head coach. And then to Sirianni's credit, he realized his weakness and he turned the play calling duties over to Shane Steichen, who we've now have learned is a great play caller, is a great offensive mind. Did an amazing job in Indianapolis this season. Did a great job, obviously, with the Eagles offense last season. But now that you have an offensive coordinator that is not on Shane Steichen's level in Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni isn't good enough to step in. I know a lot of us were calling to pull the play calling duties away from Brian Johnson. The problem is if you do that and Sirianni takes them back, I have no faith that Sirianni is going to be a good play caller because the small sample size we have of him calling plays year one of him being a head coach wasn't good. They started that season 2-5. It wasn't until they switched the play calling duties over to Steichen that they started to run the football and have success. But I know a lot of people want Mike Vrabel. I know some people are saying Bill Belichick. I wouldn't hire Bill Belichick. I'm sorry. I know he's done a lot in this league. He's going to be 72 years old at the start of next season. He hasn't had any success in this league since Tom Brady went to Tampa and now retired. And I just don't think the Patriot way works anymore. Not in today's NFL. Not with the type of players that are coming into this league. The Patriot way doesn't work. And the only reason that the Patriot way worked, and I'm not saying that Bill Belichick isn't a great defensive mind or isn't a great coach, but I think the reason the Patriot way worked is because he literally had one of the best leaders we have ever seen in any sport, whether you love or hate Tom Brady. You cannot deny that he was one of the best leaders we have ever seen in professional sports. What he demanded of his teammates and demanded of himself is the reason why the Patriots had such sustained success for a long time. Not that Belichick wasn't a great defensive mind. Not that he wasn't a good head coach. But it worked because you had one of the best leaders we've ever seen in Tom Brady. So I wouldn't hire him. But, with all this going on right now, with the coaches getting fired and now they're requesting interviews, it reminds me, and I did a video about this last offseason, how much I hate that the NFL doesn't just pass a rule that says interviews should not begin until after the Super Bowl. Why the NFL permits teams who are still in the playoffs to have coordinators and coaches and general managers and assistant general managers interviewing at other places while the season is still going on doesn't make sense to me. It would not be that difficult to just pass a rule that says we are not going to allow for any interviews or discussions to take place until after Super Bowl Sunday. Why? And you saw what happened to the Eagles last year, not making an excuse. But Jonathan Gannon, now that was a violation of how Arizona reached out to him. But they shouldn't even be permitted to do it at all. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. DeMeco Ryans was already interviewing last year. I just don't get why they don't pass the rule. Just make it an easy, bright line rule. Because right now there's all these different rules about if the team has a bye, they can do this. If they don't have a bye, when it's Super Bowl, you can't talk to them a few days before. There's all these crazy rules. Just make an easy rule. The season ends Super Bowl Sunday. And feel free to interview anybody you want as soon as the Super Bowl's over. Just don't get it. But listen, guys, we are going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we will be joined by Kayla Santiago like we are every single Wednesday. Going to talk to her about this 76ers team. Looks like Joel Embiid is going to miss his second in a row tonight. Second in a row. He did play against the Knicks, although it didn't help them. But he's going to miss the game tonight against Atlanta. I want to talk to her about Embiid. I want to talk to her about what is this Sixer team going to do? Are they going to bring in another big name to pair with Embiid and Maxey, or are we going to roll with the roster we have now? And then obviously we'll talk to her a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles as well. So hit that like button for me, guys. Hit that share button for me if you're on YouTube. And we'll be right back with Kayla Santiago.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo. Before we went to the break, I was talking about how much I hate the rule that NFL teams can interview coaches who are still in the playoffs. I just don't get why they allow that. It doesn't make any sense to me. The season is not over. You should not be allowed to interview anyone until the season's over. Just like you can't bring in players. Players aren't free agents yet. So why are coaches allowed to interview and front office members are allowed to interview while they're still in season? It really, really bothers me. But it's Wednesday, and like every Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Kayla Santiago. What's up, Kayla? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I keep saying we wait all offseason for the NFL season to begin. We wait all regular season for the NFL playoffs so that hopefully this team can go on a run. Does it feel like it is playoff time right now in this city? I mean, the vibe about this Eagles team is terrible right now, Kayla.
And I think it's terrible because I think people would not be surprised if this team is a first-round exit, especially against Tampa Bay. Listen, I get they're playing in Florida against the Buccaneers, but it's also, when you look at it, it's not a team on paper that the Eagles should lose to whatsoever. But the fact is they haven't been playing like a playoff team in the last 5 to 6 games. There's no momentum going into the postseason. The best teams get hot at the end of the season and get ready to go on that postseason run. And for Philadelphia, it almost feels like there's no hope that they get any sort of run, any sort of momentum, even when it comes postseason. Because I also think people know that even if they win against Tampa Bay, I think their journey stops there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying yesterday is I have a feeling, even though there's no reason to believe that this Eagles team can beat Tampa the way the Eagles are playing right now, Tampa's just not a good team. And what I think is going to happen is the Eagles are going to win. They're going to suck us all back in, and they're going to torture us one more time, most likely in Dallas, because I have the Rams upsetting the Detroit Lions, which would mean the Rams would be in San Francisco, and then the Eagles would have to go to Jerry World and embarrass us in the divisional round of the playoff. That is my fear. But listen, I want to talk to you about the Eagles. But before we do, let's jump over to the Sixers for a second, because I've been doing too much Eagles talk, getting myself all worked up. Let's talk about the 76ers, and then we'll jump back to the Eagles. So Sixers are back in action tonight against Atlanta. But since the last time we spoke, there was 2 games. Let's go all the way back to the game against the Knicks, where Joel Embiid did play in that game, and the Knicks dominated the 76ers. What was the problem there? What happened?
That happened while all the trades happened for New York as well. So I just think right there, the Sixers kind of played down to their opponent, if you want to say it like that, and they just weren't ready for that game. I think it's also been tough right now because Joel Embiid's been in and out with injuries, and you have a lot of other guys transitioning in and out as well. I mean, the night after that, they literally had half of their starting lineup and their bench lineup. They pulled some guys up from the Blue Coats that night to actually play the following game against the Utah Jazz. So I think right there, it's really just the rotations. It's one of those games where the Knicks, and I always say it's a team like the Orlando Magic, right? They're up and coming. They're not fantastic, but they're physical. They want to play, and they really have nothing to lose. And when you play a team like that, if you're going in saying, well, it's just the New York Knicks, you're going to end up losing that game. So I really feel like it was just one of those. It happens a lot with the Sixers, unfortunately, but to me, nothing to worry about after that loss.
So I agree. Maybe nothing to worry about as far as it's just one loss. But here's what I do worry about. Here's what bothered me in that game. The Sixers were getting dominated.
Mm-hmm.
There was no reason for Joel Embiid to still be in that game outside of him trying to continue the streak of another 30-10 game. Is this what we're going to do now this season? Because now he's out the next night. He's going to be out tonight against Atlanta, but yet we kept him in the game against the Knicks just to extend his personal streak. That bothers me. I don't want this to be a me game for Joel Embiid. We got bigger goals. We need to get out of the second damn round. And is this what we're going to see now every week, just him trying to get that streak continuing?
I don't know. And it's tough to say because, Joel always says, well, I want to win an NBA championship. But you clearly see that, of course, he wants the personal goals as well. But you also look at it and you say, okay, he can only miss 9 more games this season to even qualify for MVP. The scoring title, you also need to play a good amount of games to win that scoring title as well, which if he's not going to win MVP, you think he goes for the scoring title for the 3rd consecutive year in a row. Now, look back 2 years ago when it was LeBron and Joel Embiid. LeBron sit out one last game, and that got him out of the running for the scoring title because you need to meet a qualification. So do I think that he worries about it, and do I think that coaches are aware that, okay, he's playing at MVP level once again? Yes. But at the end of the day, the way that he's sitting out and the fact that he only has 9 games left, to me, it's kind of like, okay, clearly they have bigger goals because this is a long season. To me, Joel Embiid is going to miss more than 9 games. I don't think any serious injury has happened yet. I think he's just a little bit bagged up. Listen, he's a different type of player in terms of build. He has that body that he's going to need to rest, kind of like Kawhi Leonard did when he sat out after those injuries. Joel Embiid has never been healthy in the playoffs. Yes, he averages about 30 points per game, but everybody knows Joel Embiid at 30 points per game unhealthy is not as good as Joel Embiid at 30 points per game healthy. So do I think, long answer to your question, but do I think that he's worried about it? I do, but overall, I really don't think it's something that we have to worry about just because you already look at it and you say, okay, well, at this point, they've been sitting him so much that he might even miss the MVP race just because he's not going to have enough games to qualify.
Now, that would be crazy because Joel Embiid, if he doesn't qualify with enough games to win the MVP, but yet may have one of the best statistical seasons we've ever seen in the NBA, but he won't win MVP because he didn't play enough games. That would be pretty wild, but definitely a reality. So
yeah.
Let me ask you this. So I ask you every time you come on the show, if you think this roster is good enough, should they add a piece at the trade deadline? And we talked about Zach LaVine. I know you liked him originally, but now you like the depth of this team. Well, a new name has kind of popped up into trade rumors, and that's Siakam from Toronto, a guy who Nick Nurse has some history with. Would you make a move for Pascal? Do you think he could add something to this team to get them over that hump and get out of the second round?
It's tough because I think he's going to require a lot more than everybody's thinking. In my mind, would I love to do with just a swap trade of Tobias Harris and Pascal Siakam? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I really like the player. I like that him and Joel Embiid kind of have that Cameroon feel. Both of them are from Cameroon as well, so they already kind of had that brotherhood going in. But, as much as people don't like Tobias Harris and as much I don't think he's a max player, I think he brings a lot to the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think Pascal's just going to cost too much. You're definitely going to have to give up more than just Tobias Harris. You're going to have to go into that bench because let's face it, the Raptors, they want young players. They want really gritty players. They want guys like Nicholas Batum, even Kelly Oubre, guys like that. And you can't afford to lose those pieces. Is Tobias Harris maybe more impactful on the day-to-day than those guys? Yes. But the rotation of those guys has been so beneficial to the Sixers and something they haven't had in so many years, really in the Joel Embiid era at all. There's never been Joel Embiid with another superstar and a ton of depth around them. That just hasn't happened even since the process days. So you look back at it and I say, let's take a rest on Pascal Siakam. I like him a lot, and he's somebody that I've really, rooted for, just his story, the way he's been able to play with Toronto and everything like that. I know the relationship there is with Nick Nurse, but unless you're doing an automatic switch with Tobias Harris and Pascal Siakam, I would say no.
Yeah, and I guess, what does he have left, Pascal? Is this the last year of his deal? So he's going to probably want a max deal next year?
Yeah, definitely. He's going to want more money too, and you just don't have more money. Like, as soon as you get rid of that Tobias deal or as soon as you're done that Tobias deal, there's no reason to pay any other guy on that team besides Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
I like the Sixers team. We've talked about it. I love the way they're coached. I do like the depth on that roster. It's just every time I start to get sucked back in and enjoy watching them play basketball, I just keep going back to my head saying, but are they going to do anything in the playoffs? Because this is the same story now all over again. But the one major difference is no Doc Rivers. You have Nick Nurse. And did you see Doc Rivers was just on, I think, Bill Simmons' podcast yesterday?
Yes.
And typical Doc Rivers, making some excuses again about why he didn't have success in Philadelphia. And basically, I'm summarizing, he said that Daryl Morey always made it really difficult around the trade deadline because he talked too much about players who were going to get traded, and it made his job really, really hard. If I don't see another interview of Doc Rivers in my life, I'll be happy, man.
Yeah, there was also another interview with Tyrese Maxey about the reaction of being benched by Doc Rivers last year with everything with James Harden and Joel Embiid, just trying to figure out the spacing. So he just wasn't the coach for Philadelphia. And honestly, I can't stand listening to him talk about Philadelphia. It's not like he left his imprint. Like, listen, Brett Brown is a guy that came in and truly was a coach to help develop young talent, was a coach to develop stars. But he cannot get you over that championship hump, right? He did his job. He did it well. But as soon as it was time, when you had those pieces ready to take it another step, Brett Brown wasn't your guy. Doc Rivers, he doesn't win in the playoffs. When he had that Celtics team, who did he have? He had literally everybody you could imagine. Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, all those guys on one singular team. That's why he was able to win a title. And then you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and for him to just talk back and say this and that, listen, there's some things I don't love about Daryl Morey. What conversation have we heard about the Sixers? What conversations have we heard even this year about Daryl Morey wants to get rid of Tobias Harris, or Daryl Morey's pushing a step out there for Zach LaVine? There's been rumors of media members saying this could be really good for Philadelphia, but there never once has been Daryl Morey's in conversations with so-and-so. Behind the scenes, may he talk? Yeah, but that's also his job. That's his job to try and get a good player to take this team to the next level. So listen, Nick Nurse, I said it once and I'll say it again. He is the perfect coach for this team. And everybody says, well, the professional players, it doesn't matter. We're seeing with the Eagles, coaching matters in every single sport at the professional level. And Nick Nurse is the perfect coach for this team. Back to your point about them getting over the hump, that's something that scares me so much. But I had to put my trust in Nick Nurse. And I think that Daryl Morey will make a move at the trade deadline. I'm just not sure what it is. And I don't think it's going to be a big product player. It's just going to be another guy that's able to add to their depth.
And that's a great segue, Kaylee. You talk about coaching and you talk about this Philadelphia Eagles team. So let me get your opinion, because I said before the Giants game that I thought people who were calling for Nick Sirianni's job were overreacting. I didn't think that you would move on from a coach who's gotten your team to the playoffs all 3 years coaching. The first time any Eagles coach has started his Eagles career with 3 straight playoff appearances. They were coming off of a Super Bowl appearance last season. And I said, overreacting to move on from Sirianni. Then I watched that New York Giants game, and I saw a team that looked like it had completely checked out on its head coach. They had 0 answers for the blitz, which we all knew was coming. And I'm now of the belief that if the Philadelphia Eagles go to Tampa and they perform the way they've performed over the last 6 games now, I don't think it would be an overreaction to consider moving on from Nick Sirianni. What's your position on that?
I think, I'm going to say it again, it's tough because you're talking about a coach who brought his team to the Super Bowl last year, and I get it. A lot of people are like, well, Shane Steichen was calling plays. If you know that Nick Sirianni isn't the best at play calling, you need to bring in an offensive coordinator that can call plays well. My mind goes to Frank Reich immediately. I think he's the next best available to be the offensive coordinator with Nick Sirianni. That being said, I think if you get rid of Sirianni, you have to clean house. I think you need to get a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, and a new head coach. Am I saying give up on people that literally just started a year ago? No, but in my opinion, the blame just doesn't start with Nick Sirianni. I understand he might have lost the locker room. He's kind of more of a rah-rah coach than really stick to the plan and let's get to it. But I also think his supporting cast isn't fantastic either. And you look at the personnel on the defensive side of the ball too. You're giving Nick Sirianni a new defensive coordinator with a lot of young defensive players. Howie Roseman did absolutely nothing to improve that side of the ball outside of the defensive line. So I think it goes higher than Nick Sirianni, but at the same time, they're not going to fire Howie Roseman. Jeffrey Lurie's going to stay there. So the next person to blame is Nick Sirianni. Do I think that they're going to go another way? I don't know, because you look at the coaches available right now, you say, okay, is Harbaugh going to come back to the NFL? Bill Belichick's going to be out there this year. Ron Rivera just got let go. There's guys out there that could be really high-profile guys that I think could fit well in Philadelphia, but they have experience. And we talked about it on the post-game show after the game that this organization wants somebody that they can kind of mimic and control, and none of those guys kind of meet that realm. If Nick Sirianni is the guy that they like and they can say, oh, by the way, Nick, we need to change defensive coordinators, even though it makes 0 to no sense, they're going to be able to do that because it's Nick Sirianni. So I think you need to get better supporting cast around him. I wouldn't say go and fire Nick Sirianni, but do I think that's what the Eagles organization will do because they're not going to blame Howie Roseman? Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You mentioned Frank Reich as maybe being a name for offensive coordinator, and he could be a guy that you could bring in because he's an older guy. He probably doesn't have aspirations, or maybe he does, about becoming a head coach again. I know he's already had 2 spots that didn't work out. But my fear is when you have an offensive-minded head coach like Nick Sirianni, if you brought in one of these younger offensive coordinators, one of these guys who are ahead of the game or a step ahead of defenses right now, if they come in here and they have one good season, the same thing's going to happen that we saw happen last year with Shane Steichen. Is another team's going to hire them to be the head coach, and you don't want to keep having to go through coordinators. I mean, it's the reality in the NFL, but that's why I do maybe like the idea of a Frank Reich, because hopefully you could get him for a while. And then the same thing on the defensive side of the football. We lost Jonathan Gannon, whether you liked him or not, probably making a change next year. I can't imagine they come back with Patricia or Sean Desai, but the same deal. You hire a young defensive coordinator, has success, they're going to want to be a head coach somewhere. So it's kind of the nature of the NFL that's frustrating. And right now what we're seeing, I was talking about it a little before you came on, all these coordinators and front office people are being interviewed on teams who are still playing for something, who are still in the playoffs, and I can't stand that the NFL allows that. Do you agree with me that the NFL should pass a rule that says, hey, look, the season ends Super Bowl Sunday. Nothing happens until after Super Bowl Sunday.
I get being a coordinator and thinking just from the personal humanized standpoint of you're getting a promotion. You're really excited to, have that head coaching position, whether it's the location, whether it's for your family, because I'm sure all of these coordinators dream of one day being a head coach in the National Football League. That being said, that was a huge reason last year, in my opinion, that Jonathan Gannon did what he did in the Super Bowl, because he was already being interviewed that week by the Arizona Cardinals. It's absolutely ridiculous to me, because you're going to tell me, oh, by the way, this coach is going to have an interview with 5 different teams and then go coach a Super Bowl as a coordinator the next day. You're out of your mind. I think at this point right now, the NFL needs to stop that, because unless you have guys that are going to stay, unless you have a really solid head coach, like it'll work for the Chiefs because Andy Reid's been there. He understands to coach in those moments. Nick Sirianni in that moment needs everybody locked in. It's his first time coaching in a Super Bowl. He gets to the big game. Emotions are high. You need every single person locked in. And it would go for anybody in any type of job. What's going to make you focus? Oh, by the way, you have a huge presentation, but you're interviewing for that next big step probably 2 weeks before that as well. There's so much time in the offseason. I think that you can, before the playoffs, kind of get where teams are headed, kind of see the openings where the gates are held at the head coaching position. There's a lot of teams that need one, but there is no reason you need to tell me the day before the Super Bowl a coach is getting interviewed. It's just absolutely crazy to me. They have a job to do. Wait until after the season. It can be the day after the Super Bowl, before the Super Bowl parade, for all I care.
Yeah, and this is the pinnacle of these guys' career. I mean, to be interviewed, to be an NFL head coach, something that you've probably worked your entire coaching career to maybe get to, it's definitely a distraction for these guys. And speaking of a distraction, I'm sorry, I am home alone today with my son who's sick, and I hear him pounding. Come on in, buddy. Come on in. He's got the flu, I think, and he just threw up earlier. Come here, bud. Come here.
There's definitely something going around. Aw.
Here he is. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? No? You want to stay here with Daddy? Okay, you stay here with Dad. So, sorry, he's going to sit in on the rest of the show. So, yeah, the problem is like it's the perfect storm, because his mom is in Greece and his grandmom's at the hospital and Buddy's got the flu, so I can't get anybody to watch him today. So he's going to be here on the show. And I told Xander, the producer, before, I said, hey, the little dude may be coming in here for a couple minutes during the show. What do you want, buddy? Oh, I don't have a tissue. You want to go get a tissue? Go get a tissue and then come right back. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He's just trying to get some TV time.
I think he is. I think he is. It's a little sneak. Adorable. Sorry about that, Caleb.
No,
but yeah, that's
fine.
my buddy. That's my buddy Leo. And it's funny because I love all 4 sports. I love the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies, and the Eagles. But I think my favorite at the top is the Eagles. But my buddy always wants to watch the Sixers. Always wants to watch.
There we are. All right, he's my favorite now. There you go.
Yep, he'll get in and he'll say, "Dad, can we watch basketball?" Now I'm still trying to teach him who we root for because he'll say, "Do we root for the red team or the white team?" But he just likes watching them play. Well, let's take a look ahead then at this wild card matchup, Kayla, because the Eagles, when you look at roster, oh, I'm seeing Sylvain saying Bill pukes on the air. You want my boy to puke on the air? Come on now. Thank you, Wine Niners. Wine saying smash that like button for Leo. He's coming back. But you look at this wild card matchup. Come here, Jay. You want to chill up here? All right, we're going to multitask today. Mr. Mom here today. So when you look at this matchup, on paper, the Philadelphia Eagles obviously have a better roster. No doubt about it, up and down. Right. But let's look at the last 6 games, and you tell me which team I'm talking about. One team is 1-5 with a negative 59 point differential and a negative 8 turnover differential. The other team in the last 6 is 5-1 with a plus 38 point differential and a plus 5 turnover differential. What team sounds better, Kayla?
Listen, at the end of the day, they're going into the playoffs as the 1-5 team, and you can't change my mind on that because, listen, can they turn it around against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? No. Do I think they can win against Tampa Bay? Absolutely. But I don't have any confidence in this team. You go in and you say the last win to me that I felt so good about this team was against the Miami Dolphins. Ever since then, it's been, okay, well, no, duh, they lost that game because they've kind of been playing like this all season long, but they've been able to pull out big wins. And the issue is, I don't mind them pulling out the gritty wins, right? They pulled out gritty wins against pretty good teams. What I mind is that each and every week you say, okay, this is what they need to work on to get better and take the next step. And it not only doesn't happen, but it almost gets worse each and every week. And then you start losing to teams like the Cardinals and the Giants. And to my belief, I think they could have lost against the Giants twice because the Giants decided to put Tyrod Taylor in the second half of the first game. If he played that whole game, I think the Eagles could have possibly lost that as well. So you look at this team, and I do think that the NFL is definitely based on momentum towards the end of the season. There's clearly talent, there's clearly better rosters, but you look at it and you say, okay, well, which team is playing better? On paper, if you don't watch the Philadelphia Eagles, you're saying you're crazy for picking Tampa Bay. But if you watch Philadelphia and you see how they played against the Cardinals, you see how they got dominated by the New York Giants, they certainly can lose against the Buccaneers. To me, their identity is this 1-5 team. The only thing that would prove me wrong is if they're able to get past the divisional round. I don't think they win past the Buccaneers. Do I even think they win on Monday? They're on prime time for whatever reason the NFL did that. I don't know. I think this team has completely lost its identity. And you look at, besides this year, just beyond, you look at who you lose in terms of veteran leadership. Jason Kelce, wouldn't be surprised if he walks. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. There's other guys that you look at and you say, okay, well, what's the point of coming back next year and putting their bodies on the line and suffering even more injuries if you're possibly going to clean house, or if you're not going to make any type of adjustments, if you're just bringing back a team that didn't really do well last year and was kind of a disappointment. On the flip side of that, it is extremely hard for any team to go to the Super Bowl. And I remember talking about this after they won in 2017. Is it more likely for the Eagles to go to the playoffs in the first round, or is it more likely for them to not even make it? And you could say, well, listen, after the Super Bowl, there's a Super Bowl hangover. It's their first. They're going to have a tough time getting into the playoffs. 2018 in the postseason was better than right now that we're going to experience, in my belief. So they're the 1-5 team to me. They're the team going in that just lost to the Cardinals and the Giants. There's nothing to me about this team that's going to turn it around. As much as I love Jalen Hurts and I think that he's a really good leader, he's banged up. A.J. Brown's banged up. DeAndre Swift is banged up. Devontae Smith is banged up. None of these guys are healthy going into this game either, and that's going to play a huge factor.
Yeah, you made a great point, too, about the New York Giants the first time around, because if they would have started Tyrod Taylor that whole game, they probably win that game, too. So, yeah, this team hasn't looked great. You know, the only thing that I've lost all hope, but I'm trying. You know, I bleed green. I know you do too. We want to see this Eagles team do something. The only thing I'm grasping onto here is this could be Jason Kelce's last game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It could be Fletcher Cox's last game, Brandon Graham's last game. Do those guys, the strong veteran leadership that we were asking for all season, finally do something where these guys say, you know what, we're going to give it our all. Maybe they don't believe in their coaching staff. Maybe they don't believe in Brian Johnson's play calling anymore, or Sean Desai or Matt Patricia's defense. But maybe this team comes out and plays hard because they know there's 3 Philadelphia Eagle legends that may not be in an Eagles uniform next year. That's the only hope I'm hanging on to.
But this is the thing, too, to me. They're going to play hard in their positions, but A.J. Brown said it perfectly. If the guys aren't slashing on their routes, if they're not doing anything on their routes, then this is going to be a really, really tough game. You look at the play calling and you say, okay, it is not advanced whatsoever. They're going to bring the blitz once again. It's crazy to me that the Eagles played offensively how they did when you know the New York Giants aren't a fantastic defense, but they're going to blitz the heck out of you, and you still play the way you do. I mean, are these coaches just not watching film? Are they just kind of playing it lazy and saying, okay, we're only going to do a day or two of film, and really not studying what they need to be doing? Because the worst thing the Eagles can do right now is go into this game and say, well, we're the better team record-wise. We have more talent. We can rest on our laurels. Let's go ahead and play Tampa Bay. At the end of the day, I don't think it's up to Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, and BG. As much as I want to say these guys are going to rally the troops and they're going to go in and have a huge game against the Buccaneers, we have already seen this season that the player leadership is not the reason, to me, on the offensive side of the ball especially, that they're losing these games. I mean, you look at the defensive side of the ball, you look at guys like Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Have they been good all season? No, but can you really evaluate that fairly because of where they've had to been put, the places they've been? They've been playing out of position all season long because there's so many young guys that are either getting hurt or just coming in. I think, listen, they're definitely going to give those exciting one-liners that I'm sure the Eagles social media team is going to put together and hype everybody up and make everybody run through a brick wall. But at the end of the day, I think it goes further than Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, and BG. At my point, there is clearly a division between the coaching staff and the players, and that doesn't get fixed in 1 week.
I'm trying to give some hope to these fans, Kayla, and you're killing it. I'm just
trying to be a realist. Like, I really am, because I look at this game and I just say, I don't want to get my hopes up because, you know, watching Philadelphia sports for the entirety of my life, that's exactly what you do. But you look at the games, and each and every week we have to analyze them and look at them and watch every single one. We're all taking notes. We're all getting ready for the broadcast. And to me, it's different week, the same exact story. Like, how much more can we analyze and say, no, you know what? They're going to turn it around this week. Do I think they have hope because they're a better team on paper than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be a blowout on the Bucs side? No, but I also don't think it's going to be a fun game to watch. We're going to say, oh, the Eagles are moving on to the next round. The Buccaneers are going to get everything they got. They're at home. They've got their home crowd behind them. The Eagles, I think, can slip away, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall in this game, unfortunately.
I don't disagree with you. You know, I said this yesterday on the show as well. We waited for them to respond after they got dominated by the Niners. We waited for them to respond after they got dominated by the Cowboys. We waited for them to respond after Seattle came back on a 92-yard drive. We waited for them to respond after Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals embarrassed us. Now we're waiting for them to respond simply because it's the playoffs, and I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to respond. The only hope I do have is that the Bucs are a bad football team as well. And I've heard some people say maybe it's a good thing that the game's on the road. I just heard you talking about how Tampa's fans are going to be up and they're going to be loud, that, you know, maybe it would be a good thing that the Eagles aren't starting at home and they're starting on the road, but it's yet to be determined. But let me get you a quick prediction from you. I think I know where you're going, but do the Eagles win on Monday night?
Everything in me wants to say yes, and I hope that they prove me wrong. But I think just how they've been playing, we say the Buccaneers are a bad football team. Well, if you would take the Giants or Buccaneers, in my opinion, I'm taking Tampa Bay in that game, and the Eagles just got dominated by the New York Giants. So I have to go with what we've been seeing. I have to go how we analyze this game. And I'm going to go Tampa Bay at home, 24-21. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites when I last looked, and I do understand why. But I just think right now this team has no hope left in them, and I hate to say that. And I really, really hope that they prove me wrong. I hope that I'm completely wrong, but Tampa Bay is going to come out there. They've got nothing to lose. They're expected to lose on paper in this game. 24-21, I'm going to go Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I hope you're wrong, but I don't necessarily disagree with you. I still think they're going to pull it out, but I'll give my prediction later this week on the Power Hour. Actually, next week, because it's a Monday night game. But, Kayla, I appreciate you putting up with little buddy here. I know this wasn't a normal interview here that we had. But, Leo, do you want to give Kayla a Go Birds? No? Oh, he's really not feeling good.
Yeah, he says he's tired. He says he wants to watch the Sixers instead. It's okay.
Yeah, so, well, I appreciate you, Kayla. I will see you on Monday night for our halftime show probably, and then again on the postgame show right here on the JAKIB Sports Network. And appreciate you joining the show. Have a great week. Enjoy the weekend of playoffs because we don't have to worry about this Eagles game till Monday at least.
Yeah, absolutely. You as well. And like I said, I hope that I'm completely wrong, so I still have to say go Birds.
Thanks, Kayla. I'll talk to you soon. Kayla Santiago joining the show like she does every Wednesday, does a great job breaking it all down for the 76ers and obviously knows her football as well. And if you're just tuning in, I got my buddy boy here because unfortunately Leo is sick today. We didn't have anybody that could watch our buddy, so he's here with Daddy doing the Philly Sports Power Hour, trying to get him to give me a little Go Birds, but he doesn't want to give me a Go Birds today. What do you think, bud? You want to give me a Go Birds? You want to give the Power Hour crew a Go Birds? You want to say anything to the Power Hour crew? No, you don't feel good today? Usually he is full of energy, so definitely not feeling too good. But guys, I appreciate you. See, my concern is you heard Kayla talking about she doesn't think that this Eagles team is going to be able to pull out the win on Monday in Tampa. I just still go back to, and the only thing that I have some hope left on, here, Leo, let me grab this. The only thing I still have some hope left on is, I know these are two completely different teams now than they were at the beginning of the season, but you look back to that week 3 game, and we're going to continue to break this all down the rest of the week. We have a few more days until Monday. But you look at that week 3 game was probably the Eagles' most dominant win. The Miami Dolphins game, maybe you could argue as well, but this was probably their most dominant win when you look. 25-11. They put up over 470 yards of offense. They only gave up 174 yards. They had 271 passing. They held the Tampa Bay Bucks to 133, completely shut down Mike Evans. Rushing yards, they put 200 yards up on the ground that game. That's what I think the key is going to be, is if they can look back at that film and say, hey, look, we were able to dominate in the running game and get back to that. And they held the Bucks to only 41 yards. Oh, you don't feel good, buddy? So that's my hope. But we're going to try to wrap it up a little early today. I got to take care of my buddy, but I'll end it with a today in sports history like we do every single Power Hour. So January 10th, 1982. Anybody remember what happened on January 10th, 1982? If you are football fans, as soon as I say it, you're certainly going to know what I'm talking about because we've all seen the image. But the 1982 NFC Championship game at Candlestick Park, the San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-27. But there was an iconic moment in that game, and it's what's known as the catch. Dwight Clark makes the fingertip catch for a touchdown from Joe Montana with only 58 seconds remaining. San Francisco goes on to win that game and then win the Super Bowl. The catch happened January 10th, 1982. Montana, still one of my favorite players of all time. Loved Montana. Even followed him when he went to Kansas City. Started rooting for the Chiefs back then. Not when they played the Eagles, of course, but always loved Joe Montana. But the catch, I'm sure you've seen it. If you guys are too young to remember it, just YouTube it when the show's over. The catch, Joe Montana, an iconic play in NFL history. And that happened today in 1982. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up a little early. I got my buddy to take care of. Let me see if he'll give me one. Come on. Can you give us an as always? Come on, we need it, dude. The Eagles need all the help they can get, buddy. All right. He's not feeling up to it today. But, guys, I appreciate all of you. We'll be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock on the Philly Sports Power Hour, waiting for my man Mark Farzetta to confirm, but he's usually our Thursday guest with Farzy. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you're following on Instagram and TikTok and here on YouTube. Give me a like. Give me a follow. Follow me on Twitter as well. We'll be posting daily content leading up to the Tampa Bay Bucks wild card matchup. Talk to you guys soon. And as always, Go Birds.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.